According to news reports, according to statements released by the CTPS, the off-duty officer has claimed that he withdrew his licensed firearm, so it shouldn't be his duty revolver or duty pistol, to defend himself. Now, they're saying that they don't have suspects yet. It's important to note, so then they're not necessarily assuming that the wounded are robbers and the officer by their statements, right? Of course, this could just be saying what they're saying after the fact. The officer is not necessarily a suspect, but the wounded are also not necessarily a suspect as they try to piece together what happened. This is why it's important for people to come forward. And I know that given the environment, people might be afraid to get involved in something as serious as this. But listen, at the end of the day, we all have to take some risks. People in the media take risks, exposing themselves to give out their opinions on controversial topics. People who have witnessed crime, and I would like to think that if I am presented with that challenge, I will stand up to the occasion too. You never know until you're faced with it. But, you know, when we have the capacity to provide important information for important cases, and this is an important case, I would say, we need to do it. Now, the Minister of National Security is reported of making the statement, it was a shooting, not violence. So this is what he actually is quoted to have said. I don't wish to say violence, but there was a shooting incident in which 2 citizens lost their lives. 3 others were injured. I really don't know what to make of that statement there by the minister. Because literally, one of the most violent acts you could do to a human body is shoot bullets into it. And that's like saying, I don't want to say that I'm driving to work in the morning. I'm operating my vehicle from my house to my job. I don't want to say I'm eating food. I am chewing substance in order to break it down so I could swallow it easier. I understand that when you are dealing with public communication, there will be some spin to some extent, right? Hopefully not too unethical, but there will be some spin. Got it. And I have had some of the best spin doctors on this show, and I appreciate the technical skill of which they do it. The content is a different matter. But this, I don't understand that statement whatsoever over this. And I could only imagine what the victims' families are thinking if and when they read this. Let's move on to the next story there. While the police are looking to get information on this situation, Senior Superintendent with Homicide, Rishi Singh, he has pointed out that there's a slight drop in the murder rate for the year. Now, I did say that they were going to try to take credit for the slight drop in the murder rate, minister or the commissioner. But in this case, it's not them, it's the senior superintendent. So, you know, wasn't completely right there. And to be fair, I don't necessarily think he's trying to spin it completely positively, right? Because he said, he followed up by saying the final figure remains a concern. 550 for the year so far, by their count. 582 for the same period last year, by their count. So we're comparing oranges to oranges. We will never know if there are unreported murders, how many per year that would be, right? He basically said that, look, he believes that the strategies are bearing fruit, and there's some argument that that could be true in the sense that the trajectory, as I mentioned before, is a bad one. And we're seeing the attacks be more and more brazen, but so far we're seeing slightly less incidents of shooting violence, Minister, shooting violence. The fact that we still have those numbers tell us we still have quite some work to do, which we continue to forge on to do. The current murder detection rate, though, is still 13.5%, which I do believe is worse than last year, though. And to me, that's in some ways a more important figure. Because what it says is most murders potentially go unsolved and the perpetrators scot-free. And, you know, it could be 100 murders for the year, but a 13.5 detection rate, that's not what I would like to see, because I can only imagine that even if you manage to clamp down on it to some extent this year, you could only contain the murder rate so much before this detection rate encourages more murders to take place. Because if 86.5% are getting away scot-free, you know, how many criminals like those, criminals already will take gambles on really bad odds with regards to their life expectancy, with regards to just, you know, how they're going to earn their money. They take big risks with regards to, you know, armed robberies, home invasion, selling narcotics, human trafficking, etc., etc. If you're telling me that they have a almost 87% chance of getting away scot-free with capital offense like murder, and then that sends a poor signal down the line for other crimes. And we already have an enforcement problems with things like smoking marijuana out in public and breaking traffic laws, etc., etc. Minor offenses, the professor says, enforce all your laws. Well, the CPS literally cannot enforce certain laws because they do not have the infrastructure anymore in order to charge people for them. And that was revealed by the police on a different platform, so what I'm saying is not news. But anyway, but we have 35 less murders. 32 less murders at this point in time. That is such an accomplishment. Next story. Can't talk about the police without bringing up the commissioner here. And the commissioner of police is launching a probe into an incident, or rather I would say a court matter, where a police officer reportedly lied in court. And at the end of the day, I guess it's almost kind of sad that I have to take the obvious, like this is what you should be doing, and kind of highlight it. It's like, yeah, she could do the obvious. Look how official it is. And it's the commissioner said the alleged misconduct as reported is deeply troubling, as dishonesty and breaches of the public trust will not be tolerated. I get that, but I do wonder, to what extent is this a revelation? The one thing about that situation, which happened last week Friday, where the officer basically admitted that they lied once it was shown that details of the testimony was contradicted by video evidence. To what extent, after we saw what happened with the Moruga triple murder case, and that police woman's testimony, like, to what extent is this surprising? The only thing is just how, I don't know, well, she got caught. She got caught in such an obvious manner. This is the WPC on Friday gone, that maybe that kind of, you know, is one thing to be bad in the darkness, but when you're literally so blatant and so easily exposed, it's hard to cover it up anymore. Like, I don't know what to make of this. The thing is, though, okay, yes, you announce a probe. That's what you're supposed to do. We actually need results from this probe, because this now is a situation where she literally admitted to it in court. This is a matter of public record. Now, the witness in the Moruga triple homicide, she was, for whatever reason, I don't know if it was a wise thing for her to do, but she said nothing with regards to when she was brought up on the stand. So she didn't incriminate herself to some extent with regards to what she said, because she said nothing. So I'm curious, Usually, I would advocate we don't need to know the results of police, particularly for HR matters, but this is not necessarily an HR matter, right? This is now a serious breach in public confidence where an officer basically admitted she lied on the stand, so to speak. And this is something that we need the results for, not just for this incident, but for all of the other similar ones if the commissioner wants to rebuild the trust and confidence in the police service. So I get it, this is good, this is a good first step. A first step in a long journey. This case alone, however, will not solve your trust and confidence issue. All right, let's take a break. When we come back, we'll continue on with the show. And of course, we should hopefully have the good lady herself. Oops, my special guest, stay tuned.
Simon's Musical Supplies Limited. We are the specialist in new and used musical instruments, carrying top brands like Yamaha, Pearl River pianos, vinyl and Sabian cymbals, Remo and Evans drumheads and Fender guitars, just to name a few. Also a wide assortment of music books, pan and accessories. At Simon's, we service what we sell. Trust the leader. Call us now at 625-6412 or visit us at 20 Board Street, Port of Spain.
Let the Home Store turn your house into a home you love. We offer household items, lawn and garden, paint center, hardware, plumbing, lighting and electrical, toys and storage solutions. And just for you this Christmas, come check us out for great gift ideas and all your Christmas decorations.
6 convenient locations: 6th Avenue Barataria, The Falls at West Mall, Pennywise Plaza Chaguanas, C3 Center Branch, Christmas Store at C3 San Fernando, and Eastgate Mall, Trin City.
Check out our Facebook page for more information and come visit us today. The Home Store. Turn your house into a home you love.
It comes naturally to us. Unstoppable energy. We use it to manifest a future. A future where energy takes new forms and is used in new ways for all of us. The new age of energy is here.
My name is Carl Media. I'm the founder and the host of Ever Increasing Voice Ministries. Join me every Saturday and Sunday on WESN, this powerful station, at 9 a.m. on Saturdays, 1 p.m. and 7 p.m. nightly. Also on Sundays, I'll be on at 7 a.m., 1 p.m. and 7 p.m. at night time. When you come here, we are getting people heavenly ready.
Bill and Ruth fell in love with the Benjamin Moore color Dry Sage, but they tried to match it using another brand's paint.
I mean, it's close enough.
Almost identical, really. Yeah, There it is.
Never trust another paint to be a Benjamin Moore color.
Welcome back, and I am joined, ladies and gentlemen, by a special guest this morning. A special guest. She is not here as a commentator with regards to national issues. She's not here to give her, well, she'll give her opinion, but she's not here as a contributor of Talking Point to give her regularly scheduled objective opinion on issues of the economy, on politics and society, etc. She is here, rather, as a special guest to represent a new entity that has been born into our political environment that may or may not, depending on your perception and opinion, bring forth new hope to TNT. And that, of course, is the name of the new party. And, of course, I'm speaking of its relatively new deputy political leader, one of.
Yes, I am one
Ms.
of the...
is Karen Shishara.
Yes, I guess I'm no stranger to WSN, but in a different capacity this morning, just as any other member of a political party, and hopefully as a deputy political leader of Hope, getting the opportunity in this capacity on Tuesday, not Wednesday, on Tuesday only, to speak about my position as deputy political leader. Yes, it's fairly recent. It was not to say that I wasn't following Hope. I didn't know I was following a party. I just knew it was a lot of people who were not happy with how the government was going, how things were going. So I did attend a few meetings, but it was under no banner that I was aware of in any event. And so that's how I got to know about it, about Hope and what it was doing. And I felt it was a party that was the change the country wanted, because you know they've done a poll very recently on 3 media houses, and 100% of the respondents said all wanted change. The country does want change. It's a question of whether they are prepared to push the button to make change, but there is a desire for change, I believe.
That is an important point to make, and it's one that I constantly bring up here. That it's one thing to say you want change. It's the other thing now to actually do the thing that will cause change to happen. And my only concern with surveys or polls is that, well, okay, but to what extent now the accuracy of statistics of polling a population based on a sample size? There's all sorts of technical issues with that, so we'll never know 100% of the truth. But even if it's not 100% of the population, just 100% of the respondents, it does say something. However, it seems as though we can't necessarily break from the shackles of, well, we'll just vote for the things that we know, because we, ironically, I think, because we perceive it as safe, and not take a chance with something that we don't necessarily know, despite the fact that literally it's counter to what our desires are. And would that be a fair assessment to make of our political landscape?
Okay, so firstly, I don't think they are, there's a little thing that I had read, all you do little cartoons, and they ask them, does everybody want change? Everybody put up their hand. They said, who's prepared to change? Nobody put up their hand. So the question didn't ask them, are you prepared to change? They asked them, do you want change? So I think it wouldn't, there's no contradiction in that. And also, many years ago, strangely, I thought, when they identified the top 10 fears that human beings had, I thought the fear of death would have been number one. The number one fear is the fear of change, which is why people stay in jobs that they're not happy with, stay in marriages that they're not happy with, stay in circumstances they're not happy with. Better the devil I know than the devil I don't know. And even, I guess, even death has a change that you don't know what's going to happen. So, you know, you do have to understand why persons would want change, but want to be afraid of what change could be. But I am here to say that hope is different, and I'll let you.
Well,
I'll tell you why I think so. But
what is hope, ladies and gentlemen? We do have a picture here with the new party's logo here, and I would like to show it because it gives the acronym that makes up hope: the honesty, opportunity, performance, and empowerment. Some great ideals to live up to, exactly. But one of the questions I guess you could say now is that, well, everybody has great ideals, right? Correct. So what makes hope, like what is hope and what makes hope different from everybody else? Because that's, I guess you could say, where we need to start.
And that is an extremely fair question. And were I not involved in hope, I would say that exact same thing. They all say the same thing. Everybody could wax poetic and tell you about integrity. Of course, nobody could transparency. I mean, they could tell you all the things they think that you need to hear and want to hear. Until, of course, they put it in test. So that is an absolutely fair question. By the way, it's really not an acronym. What it is a guidepost.
Oh, okay.
Yes, so it's not like H for, it's just what would you, but of course I can understand why someone would come to that conclusion. So what is the major difference? Well, I would start one with the fact that we have a 180-day plan that we have committed to, because I think one of the fundamental issues that the fear of the change in the country is because any contract is a social contract with the people, and it has to be based on trust and confidence. And I think our trust and confidence in any government has been sorely tested to the point that people say, yeah, they're going to say that, but are they going to make a difference? And what we have done, and what our political leader, and I have the greatest regard, first of all, just the composition of the party and the leadership of the party, it is diverse in terms of both ethnicity, age, but very, very important for me in any event is the ability of persons who are results focused and who have a track record. Because if you came to me to apply for a job, one of the things I'm going to want, you can say a lot of lovely things about yourself, but I want to know what have you achieved and what is your motivator. And I think the political leader is the head of one of the top law firms in Trinidad and Tobago, commercial law firms, Smith & Company. I mean, it's been around since the 19th century, I think 3 or 4 or 5 generations. He certainly does not need to get himself involved in politics. There's no motivation for him to that. But he has been in politics, so he understands it. In a sense, he has been president of the Senate, so he's not a stranger to politics. Then, of course, we have Louis Leasing, who is the founder of WESN, but he's also the founder of Talk Radio. I mean, when you told people that you're going to have Talk Radio, you couldn't imagine that could succeed. 102 FM, I'm going to call them out, 95.5. He was very instrumental, and that shows vision, commitment, and the hard work. And it's also Eastern Credit Union. He didn't tell me this, someone else told me that. And I would always admire that because I lived in the East for a long while. And I admire this building and they were set up the swimming pool, the go for lesson, gym and all that. It was so different from what you thought of a credit union. And he again was very instrumental in that. So, and as for myself, I've written 3 legal textbooks. So that they didn't write themselves.
Yes. And
of course, you know that I was the Minister of Finance in a very difficult time globally, dealing with Hindu Credit Union. I had to deal with that, and of course we had CL Financial and CIB. And whatever anyone would want to say, in 2010 when we were no longer in office, I can't speak for what happened after that because we're no longer in government. But no one can say that the economy collapsed under the strain of a company, CL Financial, that had over $100 million worth of assets, an equivalent of 70% of the GDP of our country, 51% holding in Republic Bank. I mean, I could go on and on. You can imagine what oil was trading at $23 at that time. So we did, in terms of legislation, I passed a lot of legislation, the Financial Institutions Act, a lot of legislation. I don't want to go into all of it, but what I want to say is that if you want someone, I've had the experience as a Minister of Finance. I think I was tested in a difficult period, and I think at the end of the day, that's what people want. They want to see, are these people able to manage a government?
That's an interesting point that you made there, because that was one of the more difficult periods financially for a lot of countries, not just TNT. And we're seeing similar situations reoccurring, you know, as the global situation changes. China has an issue now with a real estate bubble themselves that we're kind of waiting to see how bad it's going to affect their economy. Of course, Europe and their energy needs, you know, and the tightening of the belt is being felt by countries that need foreign aid and might not be getting as much as before because, you know, the richer nations themselves, it's not as though they're making money hand over fist during this period. They also have inflation issues and economic growth issues, monetary policy issues. And all of that is trickling down to TNT. And so far, we've somehow, well, I haven't heard it myself, but I believe I've been told that the Minister of Finance said, well, we raised the price of gas and it didn't ride yet. So is your proposition that in these trying times, right, do we really want to go with people that we know what their track record is? Or do we want to go with results-oriented people? And in different ways, you all have been tested to some extent, each of you. And you have, it seems that you have the confidence that, well, look, we could get you through these trying times, or we could get the people to get you through these trying times, either way.
Yeah, and just to say that we see ourselves as part of, you know, the experience. You just can't buy experience, but passing it back on, because you clearly want to pass it on to the next generation and not hold on. And I don't think any of us want that desire to hold on. So to answer your question is, what, do you want mediocrity or do you want excellence? Why must we settle for anything else but excellence? Why must we be willing to have our growth? And this is, I had Professor, he's a professor now, Dr. Roger Hussain on, and the 3 countries in the Caribbean that had negative growth, meaning their economies contracted since 2015, was Haiti by 4.1, Suriname 13.7, and Trinidad by 17.1. And I may have said it on another occasion that someone said, well, what about in 2023? Well, Professor Hussain said that IMF anticipates will contract even more to 20%. So that means our economy is not growing. Our debt situation did not turn out as badly as we had anticipated, and that had nothing to do with us. It had to do with the price of gas and natural gas. I had a guest on another show, Dr. Justin Ram, and he made a very good point. You know, he says, you're using up all the natural gas for LNG. We don't own it. Most of it is owned by BP and Shell, and we have a small ownership. I don't know how much what his point was, is that you want to get the most bang for your dollar. So he compared it with, say, cocoa. And you said it's like sending your cocoa across England for them to make a Cadbury chocolate, then sending it back to you. He said that natural gas should be used in the Port Lisa's industrial estate, where you get more value added, but so much of it is committed to natural LNG. So there's the economy that you're looking at. We have not had the Prime Minister's diversification. I mean, that's what he's alleged to have said. And it's almost an irritation. Yeah. You know what? That's how you earn foreign exchange. Because would you believe that's how you earn foreign exchange?
Well, the thing is, you know, every now and then, a positive remark with regards to diversification or implied positivity comes out from the government. It's just that we don't actually see the results.
No. You don't actually see the implementation. That's what you don't see.
Yes. We don't even see the start. Yes, you're right.
That's what it is. And I'm telling you that's what it is. Because you asked me what it is about the leadership. And the one thing I said about all 3 of us from different backgrounds, I mean, I am a lawyer too, that is true, but I looked at it more from, well, writing these books and so on, is that we are all results focused, and we have proven results. We're not telling you that we can do, we have done, and we have done at a very, I think, all three of us, at a very high level. Even our chairman, Steve Alvarez, he has been, many people may not know that, but built many hospitals in the States where he lived. And so what we know is we have a 180-day plan. So we have said, one of the things our political leader did, and I was so proud of him. I'm telling you, I was very proud of him. I don't know if anybody else ever did that, any other political leader. He came and said in the launch of our party, he says, who is controlling the cabinet? Nobody said it. I saying what he said. I mean, look, I bet you they didn't. How come they don't come in and go, why they don't go and come after him? You know why they don't come after him? Because they know who he is. Timothy Hammersmith, he has been the head of one of the top law firms in Trinidad and Tobago. And if he's saying what he's saying, maybe he knows what he's saying, and maybe it's not John Quack who just said it. He said, who is controlling the cabinet? He said there's a cabinet outside that is dealing with drugs and guns, and there's a cabinet outside that dealing with the contracts. It's not the government, it's the cabinet. That is who is controlling our country. And what our plan is, and he has set it out very clearly, one thing, it's easy to do. Why will they not give the DPP the resources to have staff? It's the only prosecutorial yet you give the law association prosecutors for the persons who can't afford it, but you will not give the DPP who has been crying out for years to be given staff. Why won't you give him that? We would do that immediately. Another thing we would immediately do would put in he called it a special fraud office, but the equivalent of an office that deals with the money laundering and white-collar crime, which would be a combination of investigative and of course, you have so many lawyers there, investigative and, of course, the prosecutorial arm. We would train them, so we would deal, that's something you can do right away. That's what we have committed to doing. And the number one problem people talk about is crime, because crime affects productivity, it affects foreign direct investment, it affects confidence and trust of the people, and affects your very safe life and safety, your sense of safety. He has made that commitment. Another thing, the guns, all those guns entering the country. It's a simple thing. Pass a law that says that if you are found with an unlicensed firearm, this is the burden is on you to prove that how you got this unlicensed firearm. So if you have an unlicensed firearm, there is going to be a period of imprisonment. He set a special court just to hear unlicensed firearm matters, because the guns and the drugs go together, and that is the main cause of our crime. So these are commitments. Another major commitment too is campaign financing. The legislation is there, but they will have not passed it. We have committed to passing the legislation. Another thing that we have committed to passing, remember when they now started this government, many in 2015, 2016, whenever. They had the Economic Advisory Board, headed up by Dr. Terence Farrar. That fell apart in 2 twos. There is legislation. I actually went and looked it up afterwards. In some of our jurisdictions, actually implemented already, called Fiscal Responsibility Act. And therefore, you have a body that will then, it can't tell the government what to do, but it can tell the government, hey, wait, the inflation rate is too high, your debt to GDP is getting too high, and put forward suggestions, recommendations which the government has to consider and report to the parliament. So there's a director of that thing. So we have made those kinds of, I don't know, people coming out and saying to you that that is what they know they will do in the first 180 days.
I think that's one of my issues with our political landscape. What do we vote? We don't vote candidates, right? Because the same candidate who you voted when they were with party X, right? They were the incumbent, they were the most popular candidate, and oh, we love you, we love you, we love you. And whatever reason, they split from the party, right? There have been many examples throughout the years, right? Trinidad and Tobago. Most recent one, I think, is in Tobago. In Trinidad with the local government elections. And what happens? All of a sudden, you were so bad. We don't like you anymore. But because you change your colors, literally, one way or the other, whichever colors you change to, it doesn't matter. We don't vote for candidates, so we don't necessarily care about the merits of the candidates. That's what the voters tell the politicians. That's what you're communicating. And also, policy issues. It doesn't really seem as though policy to solve issues really hits with voters. And part of me wonders, I mean, you say that people don't want change. I think part of it is...
No, I didn't say they don't want change.
Well,
I mean, to make the change,
it's hard to
for them to
right.
make the sacrifices that are needed for
And I think
change.
part of the issue is that translates to the parties. So the parties don't want to change.
No, they don't.
So if you see two parties not changing, well, what's the point of voting on the merits of the candidate if both parties just kind of throwing out whatever candidates at you? If both parties aren't giving you policy ideas or ideologies.
No, they come in with the policies, you know. Let me just tell you something, eh? They come with the policies, don't say that they don't. What they don't do, they don't implement.
Well, okay.
And then when they do, and when they, no, but that is the
Fair
that
enough,
is the
fair
thing.
enough, yeah.
And when they do implement, unless they have a joint select committee meeting, that's when you find out that the DNA was shut down for 3 years, that they have a backlog of over 30-something thousand DNA samples to test, 40-something thousand samples for ballistics to test. That's when you find out that the 4 out of the 5 scanners were not working for months. That's when you find out that they had 19 manual bays for checking and only 3 officers assigned. That's when you find out that the Maritime Division, that they now tell you 50% of the equipment is down. That's when you find out.
I will say this. I think, and it might be semantic sampling here, but I would like to draw a distinction between this is what we're proposing that we will do policy-wise, and this is all the campaign promises we will make. The latter being, we promising everything on the kitchen sink. We promising so many things. It is almost obvious before the election that it's impossible to implement all of those things. You know all of those things ain't coming out, right?
That's
Whereas
true.
I would hope, no pun intended, that the 180-day plan is not so stuffed that when you get there, you're going to have to cut things out. Because I think to some extent, even the PDP got caught with that, although they did say, they did handle that better than the other parties, because they were upfront about it, as opposed to just kind of burying campaign promises, you know, never to be heard or seen of again, right? But
But there's much more you see, and that's why we divided between 180 days and then there's the policy document, which requires much more constitutional reform. I mean, there's so much more that you would like to do, and that's where you can't come and tell people, vote us and we'll do this, we'll do that. There are a lot of things that are not going to be within your capacity to do on your own without the other side being part of it.
Exactly.
Right? So you're not going to make kind of empty promises, but there are things that you can do. And one of the things you can do is give the DPP staff. What you can do is put in a money laundering, white collar crime unit in the DPP, because the DPP is answerable to no one. He's independent, constitutionally protected. So you bring that under him. What you can do is pass legislation. Now, I don't know if you need a 3/5 majority, so I stand to be corrected on that. But if it does not require that, if you are caught with an unlicensed firearm, you have to explain the burden of it on you. We can do that.
Right.
Countries have the campaign finance legislation. We can do that. There are things, because I don't think that is very much like the Jamaica's equivalent. Very much similar. So it's not that there's any legislation that we can do it.
So
and procurement legislation,
Yes.
one last thing with the procurement. I mean, they've gutted our legislation. I find it's disgraceful in the sense that you needed a 3/5 majority to pass it.
Right.
And then once you got that thing, you made the amount of amendments you made, changes to that, you made a completely new piece of legislation. All you needed was a simple majority.
I do wonder if procurement legislation is being misused. I speculate the theory that it just made it easier now to bar people from getting contracts, as opposed to properly regulating the process of giving out contracts.
But I think at the end of the day, is a question of trust and confidence. Do you have people there who have a track? I think the track record is extremely important. Do you have people there who are coming there or looking for fame and fortune or whatever people say that politicians go about doing what they do, and you look at how they have conducted their professional life, and then you say to yourself, well, why would they make that commitment? Because they recognize, like a lot of other people do in this country, that the country, there's a lot of cynicism, there's a lot of hopelessness in this country, and then there's need for change.
So I think it was quite effective when you said, look, look at the head right now of this group, people who have accomplished things on their own, which the professor would point out, that was actually the intention of how our government was set up, to have representatives be people of society who have accomplished things of society, therefore that qualifies them now to represent and make decisions for society. And one could argue that there are quite a lot of politicians who, literally, their accomplishment is they get elected. That's more or less it, right? And you could argue, if we already said, you know, it's not based on individual merit and it's not based on policy decisions, it's just based on party. But I do have to ask, because to get to the differences of what makes Hope different, one of the things you mentioned was, it's not just, okay, we come in with a party. You're thinking about the future, and the future does not necessarily include the people at the top right now. There's a question of what happens when Kamala and Keith go, right? Who's going to be next? And it's almost like if they don't want to even make that determination or try to figure it out, because if you do, then it could be a chink in the armor of their current status. But you all are actively looking at, well, it's not going to be us forever. You don't even necessarily want it to be us forever. Because
I would like to say that,
because
very much so.
One of the interesting things is people who accomplish much individually tend to not want to have to work for everybody else and sacrifice for everybody else all the time. So
they want to be met. And another thing too, just to say that we can't change. Look what happened in Tobago. You think PNM ever thought that was going to happen to them in Tobago? So don't ever say it can't happen. That's what number one.
Right.
And number two, you're right. For those of us who are there and who are, you would want to say, in these leadership positions, we can't, there are many, many, many people who may be more than or equally qualified in terms of having achieved. But to go into government means you've got to fill out the, that form, right? You don't run that form. You're under constant scrutiny, right? Totally under constant scrutiny. Of course, you should be held to a higher standard. And many things that you could have wanted to do, can't do. Look at the president. Maybe she should have put her husband as a senior counsel.
Or rather, maybe he deserved it, but because she's the president, the perception is...
Yeah, maybe she should have let maybe the government should have let the former president do that.
Exactly.
You understand that?
Exactly.
And then you look now with this whole confusion, kerfuffle, which perhaps we can speak about next tomorrow, with the industrial court, you know, the ladies all the way in Switzerland, well, she's not here anyhow, and then appointing somebody in absence. I mean,
by a phone call.
I mean, and it's just so, it's so distasteful.
So do you all have...
And she is the president.
So do you all have a slate of young people which you all are hopefully looking to try to prepare, I guess you could say,
we already have.
as the next generation moving forward? We
already have, because if you look at the photo of the lineup,
there should be two.
You'd see there's I don't want about at least 4 or 5 young people. Okay, and that's just the beginning. None of us want to hold on. I can assure you. And you know, contrary to what they would like you to believe, but they know it's not true. They know it's not true. I was offered a position, and I said no. That's early in the days when we were in opposition,
Right.
Okay, and just take it from me. The person who would have said it to me had the power and ability to ask me. He was not the prime minister. And I will just say this, that, but I doubt that it was done without the prime minister knowing.
Right, of course.
There we go. And I said it right there in my home. It happened in my home. It was in salon at the house. I sat in my living room. And I just said, no. I said, I can't be, you know. I said, you see that what's going on there? I know too much. And you see the too much that I know? I said they will either fire me or I will have to hand in my resignation because I cannot be part. I am not a good fit for this leadership team you have there. I don't fit in here. I said, whatever, from my experience in government under Patrick Manning, I can only speak well of him in terms of, from my experience, of not being a dishonest person, never having trust and confidence in me. I don't think he just had it just like that. I'm sure he did it all his checks that he would check and so on. But my experience was such a positive one under his leadership and his commitment to the country that I saw for myself. You know, when I was outside, I used to always believe, when I say outside of government, because I come from an apolitical family. And so when I went in there, I came in there with a drawn desire. I said, okay, I'm going to find out now. all the things you hear about these people, I'm going to see it up close, because now I was Minister of Finance and I would have to deal with the Prime Minister often. I never had any experience ever with the Prime Minister that I could say that even bordered on anything that's close to dishonesty. And that, for me, is critical. And so if people feel that some of us are hungry for power, I could say, of course I want to be in. Yeah, I want to be a senator. How many make me a senator? You're going to make me a minister? Sure, I want to be. Why did I turn it down? If I'm not telling an untruth, that is, which I am not.
Now, just to wrap things up here, I do have to ask, I don't know if you could tell me or not, but it goes with my main criticism of any alternate party to the main two, or you could say third, fourth. I tend to do that, right? Although, of course, there's multiple other parties, right?
Yes.
That may be contesting the next general election and future elections.
Yes.
So but my main criticism is usually most other political entities don't have the stomach to go through the process in the long term of having to deal with, trying to convince the country, hey, we're not just a fly-by-night. We're going to stick it out, because the first election could be rather rough for any new party, right? And normally we don't see any success. The PDP, I think they're an exception, but they were the second party. There was no other party to the PNM to kind of to take that slot from them. Will Hope be contesting this next general, and will they be prepared, if the results are bad, to keep going with the same sort of momentum? Until the job is done and potentially, one way or the other. Either you see other politicians, up their game, or you all get elected until that happens.
I think it's because the persons who are in the various leadership positions, and that includes Stephen Alvarez as the chairman, and includes the younger ones that are part of the party. I think that what for us makes a difference is that none of us have to do this. None of us, has the correct English. None of us has to do this. I think I have achieved enough for me to say, well, at the end of the day, well, I wrote my books. I was Minister of Finance. I dealt with I did with big, I don't need to. At this stage of my life, I have grandchildren. I have my children. I don't have to be dealing with this. And I'm sure Timothy Hamilton could say the same darn thing.
Yes.
He has nothing to prove. He was president of the Senate. He was the head of one of the top law firms in Trinidad and Tobago. He has nothing to prove. He has nothing. And the same thing with Louis Lee Singh. It's just like, why would we put ourselves in this position if it is not for love of country? And we know there are other people who support us, but can't, understandably, because they will pay the price, because that's how governments tend to operate. And I think this government, more than others, I'm sorry to say, I feel really will get punished if you dare be seen openly at any way to be supportive of anything but this current government. All governments are guilty of that. I am not saying otherwise. But I say, in particular, there's a sense of fear I feel people feel trapped by. So I think when you look at the leadership team that you have there, I don't think there's anybody there that you could say is hungry for power, who wants to taste power, who no, I did not at all. And we all of us want to see continuation of hope. We want to win. We're not going in there to be, we also ran. We want to win because we want Trinidad to achieve the excellence that we know that Trinidad can have. Because too much of what's going on either side of the equation has too much to do with people's personal agenda, too much to do with taking instruction from outside of the cabinet. For whatever reason they take the instructions, why they take the instructions, I leave it up to you to try and figure out why they take the instructions, but they look like they do take the instructions. Too much crime in this country, too much cocaine, too much drugs, too many guns, no real effort to have other streams of foreign exchange in this country, and you knew it all along. You know it for a long time now. You always talk about the volatility of oil and gas. And what have you done all these years? Just a little, open a little thing here, open a little thing there, open a little thing there. And then when, look at the data protection, just the last example.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, you have the PS running out now to say by the end of 2024, they will have a director in the office set up. So it's in 2012. So why? You were not in office in 2012, it is true. But you're there about 8-9 years. What are you doing? What were you doing with the gambling laws? What have you done? Why aren't you doing something about that? Listen, this government has shown in no uncertain way, if it's one thing I can say, that they are not committed to implementation. They talk, they don't walk it, and where they should walk it, you want to know why they're not walking it. And I leave it to you to figure out why they do it. And that is why I can't be part of either side, and that's why I believe in hope.
Well, folks, we have a new hope. Those who get that movie, it's a movie reference, Karen, right, for the young people.
Oh,
yes.
young people, okay,
yes.
sorry.
Annie, not so young, because it's actually.
Oh, no, you make me feel real old now. You're taking yourself deep in a hole, you know.
So folks, we do have to end this part of the conversation here. When we return, we'll open the phone line. Stay tuned. This is Talking About the WSN, where we want to hear from you, the viewer, but after this.
Join me, Dr. Nalini Kokaram, on What's Up Doc, where we discuss all your burning questions concerning health.
Trinidad and Tobago is among one of the highest risk group of patients that develop this form of genetic breast cancer.
What I'd like to take home from a short interview like this, screening. You must screen.
Because it's silent.
It's silent.
Yeah.
And because it's silent, you don't know it's there.
What's Up Doc, every Tuesday and Thursday on WESN, Content Capital.
Take some time for yourself or spend some time with the family at Sandy Point Village Hotel. Enjoy our various studio and suite apartments, self-contained with their own kitchenettes and Wi-Fi. We also have our famous 100-foot swimming pool and our beachfront restaurant, the Steak and Lobster Grill. And our location in Crown Point puts us near the center of activity from the nylon pool to the local nightlife. Call us and make your reservations at 639-8533, 389-2378, or email us at sandypointvillagehotel@gmail.com.
If these walls could talk, they'd cry uncle. They didn't plan to become offices or yoga studios, but they've stood by us, even when we got a little stir-crazy. For that, they deserve some thanks. They deserve Benjamin Moore.
FanZone, your reliable, authentic supplier, has just gotten better. You can now visit our website www.fanzonett.com for your authentic wear and collectibles. The only place where you can use both your Visa debit and credit cards. Visit our website fanzonett.com to make your purchase today. Let the home store turn your house into a home you love. We offer household items, lawn and garden, paint center, hardware, plumbing, lighting and electrical, toys and storage solutions. And just for you this Christmas, come check us out for great gift ideas and all your Christmas decorations.
6 convenient locations: 6th Avenue Barataria, The Falls at West Mall, Pennywise Plaza Chaguanas, C3 Center Branch, Christmas Store at C3 San Fernando, and Eastgate Mall, Trin City.
Check out our Facebook page for more information and come visit us today. The Home Store. Turn your house into a home you love.
Welcome back to Talking About, ladies and gentlemen. Now, of course, is the time where we open the phone lines. We want to hear from you, the viewer. Call in and have your say. You can speak about some of the topics that I spoke about earlier at the top of the show, or you could call in, and if you have any question for the good lady herself, well, let me not use her talking point title. Let me say for the deputy political leader.
That's correct.
Of HOPE.
As I say, correct is right.
You know, you could call in, you could ask your questions. I'm sure people might want to say, you should have fit harder with some things. Let's just remember, Hope is a new entity, so we have to give them some time. It's not like, you know,
but you know,
we have to see how things unfold.
Okay, because I was going
But we have a caller from El Socorro. Good morning, caller. You're on here.
Yes, good morning, Shara. Good morning, Sean. Shara, I just heard, you know, your wonderful presentation there. I think Hope does possibly would be a viable third force. But we all know about the country's voting patterns. In fact, it's no secret that the two parties are very much ethnically based. And that could be seen quite clearly in the aftermath of local and government elections, national elections, where one part of the country is red and the other part of the country is yellow. It's just about 2 years again to go, and my question is two-part. How is your party going to penetrate that barrier? I've heard about the policies, that sounds good, but how are you going to reach out to these ethnically based voters, and perhaps there's a 20% undecided voter base which you can penetrate? And the second question is your party open to forming a coalition or an alliance with other parties for the next election? Thank you.
Okay. You took in response to the first question, maybe I'm an eternal optimist. Not in a pragmatic way, too, I would like to think, because you made a point there. You said it is a 28% fruit-in voter. And many people, they've done we have some data, and some of the PNM strongholds, the turnout is very low. They win, yes, by a large margin, but the turnout is like 20-something%, which tells you that there's a level of cynicism and hopelessness even among them, among so-called party supporters. So that, how do you turn around people? You turn around people. I was talking to Sean off the air. I said, Sean, you know, all those years, I never wavered. Somebody's calling. So we believe that we can do it. We believe that we can get the 28% to come out, and we believe that if you're being strategic about how you do or how you go about it, that what happened with COP will not happen with Hope.
I mean, that implies the answer to the second question. I might ask a follow-up to get that, but we do have two callers waiting. So the first one is St. James. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Yes, good morning.
Morning.
A question for Karen. Good morning to you. Would Hope be contesting all 41 seats, or would it be a selected constituencies as Louis' ex-party that, you know, he only selected certain areas in a local government election?
Well,
thank you.
Thank you. Would you believe I'm feeling embarrassed to say this, but I'm not too sure I knew what seats Louis' last party or whatever party it was decided to select. We have a strategic committee, and one of the things we believe in is that everyone should have a say. There are a lot of intelligent, young, bright, experience, a combination. So we're going to make that decision, but it definitely will. At this point in time, certainly not limit ourselves, but I don't want to speak out of turn. I'm not a political leader, and we are going to have those strategic meetings, but it's certainly not going to limit ourselves. We look at it strategically, and we will hope that the people of Trinidad and Tobago will see like Tobago, see the light, and that there is a difference, and that we are the difference for Trinidad and Tobago.
We have Arima waiting on the line. Good morning, Arima. You're on here. Oh, it looks like we lost Arima. Caller from Arima, you could call back in and pose your question if you had one to the deputy political leader herself. But I just wanted to get a follow-up to be more specific with regards to being open to alliances. Now, you said that you don't necessarily want to what happened to the COP to happen to you all. But that's an open-ended kind of way to say it. Would you, I mean, the alliance that they made, to some extent, played a part in their demise. As a
very much
party.
so. Well, okay, so there's two things to that. You know, being strategic means you got 300,000 votes, but as I told someone very close to me, I said 300,000 votes didn't mean anything because you didn't win a seat. So you have to be strategic in how you approach it. And I think that's one thing we do understand you have to do. Second part of the question.
Alliances.
Alliances. Again, I'm not a political leader. There is a political leader, but I really do think at the end of the day, what a major consideration will have to be is if we feel that there's need for change, if we feel that what we have offered out there, at least with the main parties and maybe others not as main, which we found out when the COP joined with the UNC to form the People's Partnership. I mean, I could have told you, I'm sorry, some might sound like sour grapes, but I could have told you, but let's just say that I wasn't surprised that the persons who supposedly were members of the COP alliance side were really members of UNC. We won't be doing that. We're not in it for that. We're not in it to prove anything to anybody. We're there for Trinidad and Tobago. And as I said, I told somebody the other day, we don't have the word village idiot written on our foreheads, meaning that we are not, and we have experience in life and we have experience in politics, but most importantly, we have the interests of the people. And
okay, well, let's take this next call from Tunapuna. Good morning. Hello? We now got the call.
Yeah, okay, he's back out.
I'm not sure if because we now got the call, so I don't know if we have some technical difficulties with regards to our connection. Okay, well, that's strange, but
what I wanted to say is, you know, when people ask you, well, why are you doing this and what is your motivation?
Yeah.
I have never wavered. I have never wavered. There were many people, you know, some people are seduced by power, you know. Some people are seduced by position. Some people need that power and position, and loyalty takes a second place. Now, if you have values that you supposedly believe in, and you believe those values represent who you are, but you are capable, at the end of the day, to make a decision, which, in my respectful opinion, has more to do with your own interests rather than the country's interests. It's a lot more about you as a person. And I'm saying that in the context of, I could have jumped ship too. I could have said, Mr. Barney, you're getting old and sick, so I go in elsewhere. And I have never wavered in my support of Patrick Manning.
We have the caller from Tunapuna. Good morning, caller. You're on here. Hello, caller? Morning. Hello. You're on here.
Hello, good morning.
Morning, morning. Morning.
Good morning to the panel.
Good morning.
Yes, go ahead, caller.
Yeah. I don't know what's taking place. Yeah. Am I on?
Yes, you're on.
Yeah. I'm calling concerning the new political party. And everyone is looking, because of frustration, lots of people are looking to see what course to take in this next election. Because people have given up. Some people are even saying they're not going to vote. They are fed up. Because nothing is showing that they're putting the nation first, especially when it comes to protection of our nationals. We need to get things done seriously, and that must be the first and foremost, because everyone right now is living in fear, and we need to get serious with this justice system and protection of people, the nationals, the border, everything. We need to put things in place properly and to correct all this negative situation. Thank you.
We cannot agree with you more on that. And, and as I had said, one of the reasons I suppose I supported Mr. Manning and never wavered was in the short time that I was in office, I was given very strong instructions about what I had to do. Financial Institutions Act, and that was because they couldn't deal, CL Financial was a family-owned company, and the governor of the central bank could not see what was going on in the CL. A lot matters that were not insurance company related, finance related, but may have been other, like insurance, etc. And by the FIA, he would get a consolidated accounts and also reduce intercompany borrowings. The passed the Financial Institutions Act. We also had to deal with the Hindu Credit Union situation, which came to Ministry of Finance, which is not a matter that should be in the Ministry of Finance. We actually drafted the credit union legislation. The Trinidad and Tobago International Financial Center, we had actually signed an MOU with a company that, one of the big Lehman Brothers that fell apart after the global financial crisis. Yes. But we did go to Dubai. We actually had a gentleman from Ireland had worked on the International Financial Center in Ireland, and he was in our office at the time, the Revenue Authority. We had actually passed that legislation in the lower house, the gambling legislation with the sunset clause, so that we were closing it down. We had meetings, and so, in other words, we were doing what we said we were going to do.
We have a caller from Diego Martin. Good morning, caller. You on there? Caller, good morning.
Hi, good morning, Mr. Nunes, Shishera, and Sean.
Morning, morning.
I wish Mr. Shishera and the new party all the best. I am looking forward to see that how best they can, make things turn around, and I only hope that they can get the support they need, because the country definitely needs a change. And I have to make a choice who to vote for as well, because voted for one, more or less 99% of my life in one party, and that's the PNM. But the fact is, the way I have a strong problem in leadership, and the way they use the funds and everything. I find like this particular brand of them, they seem to see that the person there, it belongs to them, and they spend how they want to spend it. And I find they're treating it very badly. And after all these years, I don't know, especially last 8 years, I get distracted from them, and a lot of people in the market central, they are very disgruntled with them when they behave. And I am telling you, I have been trying to get something fixed in my yard, water back in my yard for 4 months now. And all they take a report, and I did, and when I go back, there's a person I speak to, because she's very cooperative and very meaningful in what she's saying, but to no avail. And I am a person, I have challenges in my health, so I just can't do anything otherwise. But I will support you all. Whoever is in here, it's either you or either UNC. I will be voting, and my family as well, which is about.
At least he's honest. At least he's honest. All right, please. But
thank you, Diego Martin. It was good to hear from you again, sir. Always a pleasure. One of the OG callers.
But I want to say this. When people say you could never have changed, I don't know if you remember. These are my crew. I mean, no, you wouldn't be too young. Oh, all right. Okay, Sean. All right. I'm sorry I said that. But Crow had a song, Calypso, one year, that he said he will never have an Indian Prime Minister. Yeah. Yep. And guess how many we've had? We've had two. So never say never. That's my message.
That's a good point.
And listen, people believed him, People believed him. And we had two, Mr. Basdeo Pandey and Kamala Prasad Bisesa. So, if it's the other way around. So don't ever say never. What you have to know that there are enough, 28, I could say even maybe 30% of the population who belong to neither camp in terms of ethnicity or in terms of that kind of loyalty. And those are the people can make the difference, because you need 5% from the one side and 5% from the other side to make sure hope becomes your new government, a government committed to you, the people of Trinidad and Tobago, because that, I can tell you, is what this leadership and the persons of this leadership team are about, and making sure that we pass it on to the next generation, not holding on to something for their life, like if your life would fall apart, like the blue lights get here, you need to see them blue lights. You need to have Madam Minister Mr. Minister. You know, some people get so attached and seduced to these things, they cannot let it go.
Yes.
They cannot let it go.
It's not about the money, it's the trappings of power. The door is always open for you. You always get preference to get seated.
And you know, I honestly believe part of the reason, I cannot say that as a fact, but just having been in politics, you know, sometimes I think one of the reasons why Pesar doesn't want to let go, because she knows the day that she does that, the phone will stop ringing.
Well, you know what's...
The phone will stop ringing, and then she will find out what a lot of people wanted to tell her, that pretended to be on her side, wanted to tell her, will tell her.
Well,
and all of a sudden, she sit down lonely in her house, in wherever her house is, and be just like what they did to Bazio Pandey, will happen to her. What happened to Chambers will happen to her. What happened to Manning will happen to, because in our system, unlike United States, President Obama is still President Obama.
Yes.
No matter what, they still have a security detail.
Yes.
They still treat you with the respect of the office. Our system, one day in, and it's no kind of, and the next day out. And I feel one of the reasons why both of them hold on so tightly, apart from other considerations that are outside of the cabinet, which are very important considerations, they know the day that happens, Mr. Keith Rowley will go into Bago in a little house, and nobody will come and look for him again.
But my thing, though, is...
And same thing for Kamala, by the way.
In theory, if you conduct yourself well, right, and you command respect by your deeds, not by your office, the respect will continue after you lose the office. And if you conducted yourself with a certain amount of humility and with a sense of duty that people could see and understand that you're committed to the work and not to win an election, right, then that accomplishment should then carry forth the respect beyond, well, I'm retired now, and you might say former Prime Minister, but hey, that is still an important man, because look at what he means to the country, and because Nelson Mandela, that's what it should be, because Nelson Mandela was respected.
Yeah, but he's
long after.
But you go and put Mandela with those.
Listen,
that's a very unfair comparison.
But an extreme example, just to reiterate the point, okay, let me put it this way.
Yeah, put it another way.
I do feel that to some extent, when Mia Motley retires,
that's a good example.
She will have a reasonable amount of respect.
And you know why? Because Mia Motley is not. You know why? Because there's a sense that people have that Mia Motley is not attached to power. Because the Motley's family are well established. She comes from a well established family. She has done very well in Barbados. I lived in Barbados for 4 years. She doesn't need that.
We do have a caller from Arima.
Some of them need it.
We want to sneak in before the end of the show. Good day, Arima. We have you. You on here? Morning.
Morning. Greetings. Hear me properly?
Yeah, go ahead, sir. Season greetings to you too.
All right. Now,
same here too.
We have room for a new party, you know.
Thank you.
But the people who come into this new party, they must be aiming at people first. From the up, come down. So I will give Ms. Nunes the Shera example. The government built a swimming pool in Malabar, right? Right. But Peytonville's main bridge has been down for the last, God alone knows, 2 years. And it would cost the government small money to even install a Bailey Bridge. Shera know what I'm talking about because she represented Dabadi Omira. And for anybody to come to say, well, they want to make a difference, the management style had change. So the farmers in the rural areas, you had to deal with their roads. Not because they're UNC area, they pay taxes too. Basic services that citizens are supposed to get. It ain't happening. And the leader is also supposed to teach the citizens about responsibility because they too need to be responsible. Other than that, any new movement to come, it ain't gonna work. Have a good day, people.
I 100% agree with you. And I'm not to want to say, I just saying it only to say that when I was the MP for W. Mira, I had something called Building Bridges, which I sent out every few months to the community, and we sent it out, and I wanted to use it also to get feedback too.
Right.
I also had in my office representative of Trinidad and Tobago in terms of ethnicity. I also had, I made it a point, I said, you see, if somebody come in here with the old rubber slippers, or somebody come in here with the shoes, you treat them no differently, right? Because they are citizens. And I would like to say that NACTA, when they did the poll, said that I had just about 2 weeks before the elections, a 98% approval rating in my constituency, even above Jack Warner, who got 97%. And that is because I was absolutely committed to my constituency, Karapu. And I have to say, to her credit, Amina is, I've always, she's a UNC.
Of the area now?
Yeah, Amina.
Gosh, yes.
You know what I'm talking about. They're very attractive, tall. Anyway,
for some reason,
I opened up a sub-office.
It's
I opened up a sub-office in Karapu because that was really an underserved thing. And she came to it, you know, and she didn't have to because she was UNC, you know, and she came to it and she was so supportive. We built the pavement. We did, you know, we did a lot of work at Karapu, and it was the love of the people, you know. It's just love of the people. You have to love people, you know. If you do not love people, you should not be in politics. You have to love people. If you like the blue lights, and you like the Madam Minister and Mr. Minister, and this one calling you, and you're going to this party, you're fooling yourself. It's not you that calling, it's your office. Because tomorrow morning when you're not in it, they're not going to call you. And that's why a lot of y'all still hold on to it. And that's why I lost a lot of respect for a lot of those people who are sitting down in this government right now. Who were the ones who, Mr. Manning, believed in what Mr. Manning believed in, but apparently that didn't last too long. And that is because people are seduced by power, they are seduced by the love of people recognizing them, the blue lights, whatever you want to call it, they are seduced by that. And I can tell you for sure that if you really love your country and you really want to serve your country, put people first. And when it's your time to go now. Go. All of us have to go. Go quietly, Mr. Dr. Kirowli. Go home. Time to go home. You do enough. Not too good for the country. Kamala, sorry. You didn't do, you know, go home now. Put the country before both of you now. And the others who you have inside there, who they know, who I know, they know who I know I'm talking about, you all go home too now.
Well, Karen, I'd like to thank you for joining me as my guest on today's edition of Talking Points.
You think I got a lot of fans on the red and yellow side? I have a feeling
I don't know about that one. If you say fans of the red and yellow,
I got some fans.
I want to thank all of our callers for calling in, and of course we have to wrap up now as we're more or less out of time. So I'll just say this, objectively speaking, do I know if, you know, the new hope for TNT will, you know, bear fruit? I don't know. There's a lot between now and the next general election. But I do know this. I do think that society and how we perceive our political landscape and how we perceive our politics and therefore make our decisions, that is possibly a symptom of maybe an underlying lack of a strong foundation with regards to things like meritocracy, principles, and dedication to one's nation and one's duty. Because, and this is the last thing I'll close with, there are a lot of people who are very successful and very capable who don't want to get involved without the time, they're very cynical, and to some extent I can understand that. I've seen people that the machinery have chewed up and spit out. The best intentions did not matter. They weren't able to make a dent. I will just say this, at the end of the day, we're still living here. And we don't want the country to fall out from underneath us. So we have to try, and we have to keep trying. So I want to congratulate all the members of HOPE and wish you well. And I want to tell everybody, until we see you again tomorrow, stay safe, be well. Today's a good day to have a good day, as my coach always says. But we will see you tomorrow morning. Make it a good day today, folks. You could do it if you try. But until then, goodbye.